Merry, merry, very merry Christmas to you. What is up, Finn fans? Hope you like my sweater. I bought it specifically for yesterday, going to my family's for Christmas Eve, and I wore it. And now I'm wearing it today because it's Christmas. And the fact that you are watching this video on Christmas, I appreciate you. Giving me the 10, 15, 20, I don't know how long this video is going to be. We got a lot to talk about, but giving me the time that you should probably be spending with your family. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And again, a very Merry Christmas. I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for the support and everything. So, what we're going to do in this video, we're going to go a little deeper dive into yesterday's game. And then we're going to talk playoff standings. A lot of you guys after the game were asking me what would happen if we beat the Ravens and what happens if the Chiefs and this and that. Bada bada bing bang boom. We're going to go over all that. Then on Thursday, I'm going to make the whole who should we root for, yada, yada. But also, tonight is a big game for the 49ers versus the Ravens. Obviously, we want the 49ers to win. But I think regardless, even if the Ravens win, we still have to beat them next week. So, without further ado, let's go into some more deeper dives. Tua Tagovailoa. Statistically, 4,214 yards, number one in the NFL. 70.5 completion percentage, number one in the NFL. For the last 40 years, the last five quarterbacks who have led the league in passing yards and completion percentage was Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Kurt Warner, Brett Favre. That's some pretty good company to have. 26 touchdowns, that is tied for fourth. 10 interceptions, that is tied for the sixth most. And 105.4 passer rating is number two in the NFL. When it comes to just December, he has a 73 completion percentage, 260 yards per game, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 110.7 quarterback rating, and he is 3-1. At home, he is 20-5. So since every time Tua has started for the Dolphins at home, he is 20-5. That is the best win percentage among quarterbacks in the NFL today. Absolutely beautiful. You look at Raheem Mostert, 1,012 rushing yards, number 4 in the NFL, 18 touchdowns, number 1, 21 total touchdowns after his receiving touchdown yesterday. Devon Achane, 637 yards, 7 touchdowns, is tied for 6th. Then you have Tyreek Hill, 1,641 yards, for number 1 in the NFL in touchdowns, and 12 touchdowns. Number 1 in the NFL in yards, my apologies, and 12 touchdowns, which is number 1. And number 2, actually, now, because Mike Evans took number 1. Now, 1,641 minus 2,000. He needs 359 yards, which is 179 yards for the next 2 games. 180 yards in the next 2 games. He is not breaking 2K. He's going to get very close, but he's not breaking 2K. Right now, all the Dolphins are really worried about, and same with Tyreek, is winning the games. It's not about forcing the ball. It's not about him breaking 2K at this point. Because, again, he needs 180 yards in the next 2 games to break 2K. It's not going to happen. I think if he didn't get injured, probably would have happened, especially against the Jets. I think he would have gotten a big chunk of yardage, and I think that number would have been much lower and a bigger possibility. But being that he didn't play that Jets game, I think that really hurt him in getting 2K. Then you have Jalen Waddle, 1,014 yards, 16th in the NFL, and 4 touchdowns. So, just to reiterate, the Miami Dolphins have a quarterback, 4,214 yards. I think that is like number 3 single season for the Miami Dolphins. Number 5, he is behind Dan Marino. He just surpassed Ryan Tannehill, who had 4,208 yards after playing 16 games. So there's that. And he only played 15 so far. We have a 1,000-yard rusher and Raheem Mostert. We have 2,000-yard receivers, which is a rare commodity. Also, Tyreek Hill joins Jarvis Landry as the only players in franchise history to have 100-plus receptions in multiple seasons. Waddle comes into Sunday's game needing 36 yards to precede his 1,000-yard receiving season, which he gets. So when Waddle passes 1,000-yard threshold, which he has, he becomes the first receiver in Dolphin history to produce 1,000 receiving yards in 3 straight years. So again, 4,214 passing yards, 1,012 rushing yards, 1,016 and 1,641 and 1,014 receiving yards. This offense is ridiculous, and we have faced good defenses like the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, a lot of good, the Eagles, and we're still our number one offense. And when you look at the defense, Bradley Chubb just broke 11 sacks, tied for 10th in the NFL. 6 forced fumbles, is still number one. Zach Seiler is 8.5 sacks. Wilkins is 8 sacks. This defense is playing really well and can beat anybody. You saw it yesterday. They got in their way a little bit, but at the end, they were resilient and can beat anybody. Now, this team just needs to clean up some things still, but also Mike McDaniel back-to-back seasons with a playoff berth. I'm feeling like he's a good coach. I don't know about you guys, but first 2 years as a Miami Dolphin head coach, playoffs, back-to-back year. Last time that happened, 2008, we get to the playoffs. Next year, we don't. 2016, we get to the playoffs. Next year, we don't. What was it? 2020. I think it was 2020 we made the playoffs. No, we didn't make the playoffs. No, we didn't make the playoffs under Brian Flores. And then you have Mike McDaniel, back-to-back playoff appearances. Couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier. So that's a little bit of the deeper dive. Again, looking back at this game, it had its ups and downs. Going for it on 4th and goal instead of just kicking the field goal. Some missed throws later in the game. But again, I think Tua had a good game. I think Tua proved a lot of people wrong. And we won. We fought through it. We needed to march down the field to kick a field goal to win it, and we did. We needed a first down. We did. Then we needed another one to take a knee and seal it, and we did. Against a very good Dallas Cowboy defense. The Dallas Cowboys were coming in this game trying to shut down narratives that they can't win on the road and they can't beat winning teams. And the Dolphins are doing the opposite, trying to shut down narratives that they can't win meaningful games in December and couldn't beat winning teams. Well, the Dolphins won and shut their narratives down. Now the next narrative, win a playoff game. Plain and simple. Win these next 2 games, clinch the number 1 seed, win a playoff game. Plain and simple. Speaking of that, let's go into that aspect of the video. Now, shkaplow. So you look at the seeding right now. The Denver Broncos lost to the New England Patriots, which is absolutely crazy. The Patriots now fall to, I think, the 5th pick. So they ain't getting a top quarterback, which I think is crazy. But see here, Miami clinched. Baltimore clinched. No one else in the AFC has clinched. But these 2 11-and-win teams have clinched. You look at the NFC, you got a lot of clinching. You got the division titles here and here since 1993. Detroit, good for you guys. Clinch. This one's close. If the Eagles somehow lose to the Giants, I think the Dallas Cowboys pop back up here. But outside of that, nothing. So you're looking at it here. Buffalo jumps way up. I will say this, though. There are a lot of 8 and 7 teams. So if these teams win, because I don't think they play each other, if these teams win and Buffalo slips up once, they're out of the playoffs. And I will show you that. Let's look at percentage before we get into the other stuff. You look at this, the Miami Dolphins making the playoffs 100%. Winning the division, that went up 78%. First round bye, meaning getting the number 1 seed, 28%. Better than the Chiefs. Not as good as the Ravens, but if we beat them, that's going to change. Super Bowl appearance went up. We are second behind the Ravens. Again, if you beat the Ravens next week, I guarantee a lot of those percentages are going to change. But take care of business. Do what you did yesterday and just take care of business. Absolutely love it. Now we go into what everyone likes, Playoff Predictor. It's just playoffpredictor.com. So these games have not been played yet. They will be played tomorrow. Me personally, I think Kansas City wins. I think San Fran wins. And I think Philly wins. If Baltimore wins this game, I'm going to be a little bit more scared than I already am about next week. But I think San Fran winning that game. But seeing this, I was so nervous about this. I would constantly be like, I'm going to pick as if the Dolphins win because we need them to. But they did it. It feels so good that they did it. They won. Like, they were like, I got you. We're going to win. And they won. Fought through adversity and won. Feels good. It feels good. So if that does happen, we're still tied, but we're still in second because of they don't give you a full breakdown, kind of like ESPN does here, where they give you a full breakdown, but I think it's strength of schedule because our conference is the same. I don't know if they go by division because then why are we still tied here? You know what we'll do? That's cool. ESPN, you might want to fix your playoff machine because it looks a little broken to me. I can't even. Is yours broken? This looks broken to me. Anyway, we're still tied, and I don't know what the tiebreaker is because we have a better division record, but conference and strength of schedule, they are better. I don't know. But anyway, this is how I see this panning out. Then you go into the following week. Here is where things could get spicy. Now, if the Miami Dolphins beat Baltimore and the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins at this point would no. And a lot of people ask me this. Hey, Doug, if the we beat the Ravens and the Chiefs lose, would we clinch the number one seed? No. And I'll show you why. So we're going to go through that scenario because a lot of people ask me that. Cleveland beats the Jets. See how they jump up? See how there's one game behind us? Cleveland beats the Jets. I think Indy can beat the Raiders here. Buffalo will beat New England. But again, I'll show you something else with that. I think Houston, if C.J. Stroud comes back, can beat Tennessee. I think Denver beats the Chargers. I think they're going to be pissed about losing to the Patriots. Steelers here could win. And if they could win, that's going to change. But I think Seattle wins this one. Hard-fought game, beating the Eagles, and I say Jaguars here. Now, in this scenario, I'm giving the scenario that people want where we win and the Kansas City Chiefs lose, which is a possibility. Bengals have a good team. Here, now watch this. Say we're like, hey, we're the number one seed. We have 2 games on the Chiefs, and we have the tiebreaker on the Ravens. We're going to set our starters, and Buffalo wins, right? So we go to 12-5. Patriots beat the Jets, which would be poetic because then they go 5-12 and probably fall out of that. Ravens beat the Steelers. See, boop. They don't get ahead of us. We have the tiebreaker. I think the Colts would win this. I think the Jaguars will win this. I think the Chiefs will win this. I think the Broncos will win this, right? And at this point, the Bills get in, but I'll get on that. If the Cleveland Browns win this game and go to 12-5, they get the number one seed. So if the Miami Dolphins lose to the Bills, beat the Ravens, but lose to the Bills week 18, and the Cleveland Browns win the next 2 games, they get the number one seed and the first round bye. So no, if the Ravens and the Chiefs lose, obviously we beat the Ravens, we would not clinch the number one seed. We would clinch the AFC East Championship and be, worst case scenario, the number 2 seed, but we would not clinch. The Bengals would have to come out and win that game. And then we get the number one seed. But also, if the Dolphins beat the Bills, it knocks them out of the playoffs. But let me restart. Let me update. Let me restart. Because we'll look at another scenario, right? So at this point, Chiefs, but let's say the Ravens win and Eagles, right? Again, next week, if the Dolphins win, we go up above them. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to go back and stick with my prediction. There you go. So again, Cleveland is the one you got to be scared about. So we have to win our games regardless. But here, as long as the Dolphins win this game, this doesn't matter. Right? They win here and they win here. It doesn't matter. We still have the East. So as long as we win against the Ravens, none of this crap matters at all. You win against the Ravens, you win the East. If the Bills lose to the Patriots, then it doesn't matter what the Dolphins do. They win the East. So next week, if the Patriots beat the Bills, Dolphins win the East. Doesn't matter what happens with the rest of the games. If the Dolphins beat the Ravens, they clinch the East. So there's two scenarios where the Dolphins clinch the East, and neither team has to worry about the other. Plain and simple. There's that. So I'm trying to think to myself, is there anything else I wanted to talk to you guys about when it comes to this situation? So overall, you want to win. You want Cleveland to fall apart. Plain and simple. You want Cleveland to fall apart. I think that the Chiefs will beat the Bengals. Broncos will beat. This is what I honestly think, and things could change. We want this, so I'm always going to pick it. This is how I think this is going to pan out. Now, the Steelers are interesting here, but I'm going to stick with that. And then I would think the Patriots are going to beat the Jets. The Jets have never been able to beat the Patriots. I think the Steelers beat them. This is an interesting game. Again, because, look, they win, we lose, flip, but Cincinnati could win this game. But I'm going Cleveland. Dolphins win. Boop. I think they could win. Jaguars. Boom, boom. So in this scenario, Bills are still in. But the Dolphins don't have to face the Bills. The Bills have to face the Chiefs in Kansas City. Whole different world. Whole different scenario. Offsides wouldn't matter. Lots of things go differently. But again, if the Bengals win here and the Steelers win here, I forgot what I did that the Bills don't make. I think it's the Colts. I think it was the Colts winning would knock the Bills out. Overall, the Bills need to worry about a bunch of different teams. Because if a lot of these teams go to 10-7, like the Texans go to 10-7 and the Broncos go to 10-7, it will knock them out of the playoffs. I showed you before. My brain is fried right now. But overall, this is what we need when it comes to the Dolphins. And I'm going to talk more about this again on Thursday, depending on what happens with the Ravens game tonight. Browns need to fall apart. If the Browns lose, I'm sorry, but let me show you one more time. You're like, God, Doug, you're the worst at explaining things. I apologize, right? This happens. Here. Somehow the Jets win. Somehow the Bengals win. And the Dolphins win. I think at this point, the Miami Dolphins clinch the number 1 seed. This is the only way that the Dolphins would clinch the number 1 seed before playing Buffalo Week 18 is the Browns, the Ravens, and the Chiefs would have to lose. Because then in that scenario, it really wouldn't matter. If the Dolphins lose and they win, it doesn't matter. See? So again, overall, next week, we want to beat the Ravens, we want the Jets to beat the Browns, and we want the Bengals to beat the Chiefs. Then the Dolphins clinch the number 1 seed. But then I would still play some players against the Bills just because you don't want to rest your guys for 2 straight weeks. But a lot of things have to happen. Overall, the most important thing, and I'm sorry I keep repeating myself, but I just want to make sure you guys know what is happening. If the Bills lose, the Dolphins clinch the East. Without say they move the Dolphins game to Sunday night. They can't. Say they move the game to Sunday night. And at 1 o'clock, the Bills lose to the Patriots. Boom. Dolphins are AFC's championships. Say somehow they move the Patriots and Bills game to Sunday night. The Dolphins beat the Ravens. Boom. Dolphins are AFC's champions. It doesn't matter. If the Bills lose or the Dolphins win, it doesn't matter. That will give the Dolphins the AFC East. If the Dolphins lose and the Bills win, then it comes down to week 18. Hopefully I explained that to you. I will try to explain it better on Thursday when we have more of clarity on what happens with the Ravens-Falcons of Ravens-49ers. But again, I showed you it doesn't really matter. We want to root for the 49ers, but it doesn't really matter. I guess it matters in the grand scheme of getting the number 1 seed. If the Ravens lose and then they lose next week and the Browns lose and the Chiefs lose, then the Dolphins clinch the number 1 seed. So much happening. My brain is spinning. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow with the film breakdown. Tomorrow night with Hard Knocks. So much planned for you guys. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your day with your family opening gifts. I will see you tomorrow. But like usual, stay classy and fins up.